Today we're talking about the frozen housing market. There's all kinds of controversy right now. Sellers, they want all the money, and buyers, they don't want to pay today's home prices. Interest rates are predicted to stay above 6% through 2029, according to this yahoofinance.com. And that's a big problem for sellers right now. So the question is, what will happen to the housing market? Will prices continue to fall? Will home buyers wait this out? Will sellers delist their house where they can't seem to sell based on the prices that the buyers are willing to pay and that they're willing to accept for the house? So to discuss what we're seeing as boots on the ground, I have with me, as I said, Phil Simonetta. What's happening, my man? What are you seeing in the Florida housing market right now?
It's frozen up, man. It's worse than it's been. The inventory has come down a little, but that's because the sellers have just not relisted. There's more expired and canceled contracts than ever. And the reason the numbers are coming down, they're saying, oh, inventory is falling, but it's not really accurate, because the reason the inventory is falling is the people who were selling have decided not to relist after 6 or 12 months on the market. That's what's happening.
You know, in 2014, the housing market was rebounding. So it was coming off the 2008 crash. And so you jumped in 2014. Have you ever seen, since you've been serving the industry, even as a flipper and an investor, have you ever seen anything like what we're experiencing right now?
Nothing, ever. And that's what scares me a little bit, because so many people are in over their head because they bought at the top of the market, and a lot of them even overpaid because they got the lower interest rates. So they said, hey, I can afford the payment, so I'll pay the extra money. But now they're realizing, houses are falling 20%, 15%, 10% places. They're realizing they're underwater. They can still afford a payment, but now they're 20, 30 grand out of whack on the value of the homes. And sooner or later, when they can't afford that payment or they start losing jobs, that's when things are going to really get crazy.
You know, back in 2022, when the Fed started raising interest rates and we were in the middle of the frenzy, I had said that the housing market was going to crash, and everybody said I was crazy. It's happening right now. We're seeing it. There's no way to predict how long it would take, but we knew that the housing market was unsustainable. We watched prices climb so far above the median household income that it was only a matter of time before this thing corrected. And then we watched all kinds of market manipulation, a lot of loan modifications that delayed foreclosures and really restricted a lot of the housing inventory that we saw going through the housing market crash, where it peaked in 2006 and sort of bottomed out in 2009, 2010. But, I've been serving this market since 1989. I've never seen anything like this either. I mean, even leading up to 2006, when we hit the peak, home prices were still affordable. The median income household could still afford the median home price. Because of this market manipulation, it's really unsustainable. And now when I look, I see home prices today, houses that are priced in the locally here in Maryland in the $400,000 and $500,000 range that, in my opinion, need complete renovation. And the sellers are crazy. They want crazy money. And, I wonder about the agents, the listing agents of some of this inventory as well, and what they're thinking, what they're even telling their sellers right now, when we're seeing that after a house is listed on the market for about a week, you've seen all of the traffic come through, and then it turns to complete crickets. Then they start chasing the dollar down, and they'll reduce it by a couple $1,000s. And it's still, when you look at the back end of our MLS, when we could see the appointment schedule on a lot of these houses that are on the market, we see that there's no appointments scheduled. And when you talk to the agents, they're telling you they have no appointments. These houses are just sitting despite price reductions. Where do you expect that we go from here?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a couple of things to answer there. The first thing is, when you talk about the loan modifications, those loan modifications were terrible for people because they had 3-4% interest rates. They remodified them at 6 or 7, and they put all the interest on the back end. So those people, their payment doubled almost, and now they're stuck, and they haven't even made payments yet. They're just starting to make payments now, and they're not. So a lot of that's going to come into the market as foreclosure or short sale.
What will happen to home prices here if we don't see mortgage rates dip down in the 4s is the big question, because the sellers, a lot of the sellers that are delisting and expecting to list in the spring, and I've seen a lot of that here in Maryland, where the seller said, you know what, we're going to pull it off the market. We're going to wait because we think that mortgage rates will come down. It's a huge mistake. You guys don't
Yeah, I
realize
don't.
that the longer things move on, the more sellers will be forced to sell and the more inventory that's going to hit the market. And if you're pulling your house off the market because you don't want to drop the price and you can drop the price, you're probably making a catastrophic mistake. As I believe that we're going to see home prices continue a downward price decline for an indefinite period of time. This is not going to go well for these sellers. But looking at this chart, you think we'll see mortgage rates drop?
I don't see mortgage rates dropping. The big factor there was the government and the Fed buying the mortgage-backed securities. They can't do it anymore. The inflation, they can't do it. That had a big effect on the mortgage rates as well. And I don't see mortgage rates coming down. I actually see them coming up a little bit because of everything is smoke and mirrors. The Fed, the way they're playing with the numbers, even stuff in the stock market, nothing's making sense. There's PE ratios don't make sense anymore. It's all on emotion. None of it's based on logic or fact. So what's good for today may not be good for tomorrow. And the mortgage rates just look, they're going to be between 5 and 7, and that's the normal area for them. The whole thing that screwed the whole housing market up was the falsely lowered interest rates to 0%. And when those rates were 2.5, 2.875, 3.25, 4%, they were so falsely lowered, and it allowed the prices of the homes to go up to get that payment. And if the people buying it could afford the payment, they didn't care. They paid the money. But those homes, to me, were never worth that money on average. They were only worth that because the buyers were accepting the payment for what they sold for. Now rates are back to 5, 6, 7%. Those homes have to come down or they're never going to be able to afford that payment. And that's what it comes down to. No one talks about that. They have to come down or they're going to sit on those homes forever because they can't pay more because their debt ratios don't allow it.
I know this is a sensitive topic, but have you considered there are around 5.6 million homes owned by people above the age of 85 years old in the whole United States? So last year, I forget what month it was, maybe it was in November, Yahoo Finance had published an article saying that there would be a silver wave of sellers. And they were predicting that in the next 5 years, about 30 million baby boomers would be looking to downsize. And we haven't seen a big wave of this at all. So it's just compiling this inventory that hasn't hit the market. And I think that's a big mistake with the sellers right now, is that they're thinking that they're going to list in the spring. And I think we're going to see a big wave of inventory, even more than we're seeing right now, that will hit the market.
Foreclosure. The foreclosure and the short sales are going to hit because all these modifications that aren't being paid for are going to start hitting in the spring because they're not paying for them now. They just had to start paying in was it September, October? They just had to start paying them, and people aren't paying them. They've been living in these houses for a year, year and a half, and those houses aren't maintained. They didn't fix the air conditioning. They're not fixing windows. Those people are living, rent free, mortgage free with all this modification stuff. You think they're going to fix the house and fix the roof? They're not. And they're going to hit the market too in the spring.
And this is a big thing too. During 2020 to about 2023, you weren't buying a house in Maryland, DC, Northern Virginia if you wanted an inspection in that period of time. I mean, unless it was an anomaly. So now inspections are back with a vengeance. And a lot of the sellers, especially ones that bought post 2020, I mean, they realized when they bought it, they're like, wow, this house has so much wrong with it. And now they're trying to sell it without fixing those things, tens of thousands of dollars worth of needed repairs and replacements.
Now the buyers aren't having it, right? The buyers now are tedious. They're looking at it and saying, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. They weren't doing that before.
For crying out loud. If you're buying a house, get my Todd Simple home buying course. It's $300. I promise you. I've not had one student, and we have a lot, that has not thoroughly enjoyed this course and has sent me emails and replied to me saying, this is gold. Okay. We're taking you through the start to finish. You have the potential to save tens of thousands of dollars in buying a house. I'm peeling the onion like no one has ever done before that I've seen in this industry. I'm teaching you how to negotiate with your agent, how to negotiate with the sale. I have worksheets, downloads, resource guides, gold, and you can gift it to your kids and your grandkids or your friends. Even gift it to your enemies. What the heck? If you're a seller and you have a home inspection and your buyer still wants that house, but they're coming back with a laundry list of repairs, you better do them without getting yourself in an uproar and, getting offended and getting mad. You better get prices
The thing they got to think about too is the fact that they're coming back to them is showing the interest, and any other buyer that's going to have the interest is going to have the same concerns. Don't take it emotionally. Just look at it logically. If you were put yourself in their shoes, you're buying that house and you see these things, work with them, negotiate. Don't just get out of here and wait for another offer. You may not get another offer, is the situation.
Well, you're not going to get the other offer without a price reduction. Chances are it's your only offer. So you kick them to the curb. Now you're back to active. And the next step is another price reduction. And what's that going to be? It's not going to be $1,000. It's going to be $10,000, $20,000. Then you have to compare that to what would it cost to go ahead and make those concessions. And here's what I'm going to tell everybody out there. A lot of the negotiations can be done without being on paper, right? So if you're in Maryland, and I'm sure this is the same way in many states, if you're using the inspection denim that we have, you're basically coming back with what's called a property inspections notice. The realtors, our acronym for that is called the PIN, all right? Property inspections notice. And what this is this is a laundry list of items that the buyer is willing to proceed with the contract should the seller either make the repairs, the replacements, or give some type of credit in lieu of those repairs or replacements. Same everywhere. But here's what happens. If I'm an agent, if I'm a buyer's agent and, I'm green or lazy, what I may do is just ship that property inspections notice off to the listing agent. And a lot of times the agents aren't even picking up the phone and calling. I'll say to my agent, have you called the listing agent about this? Well, no, I haven't told. Well, why not? Why are you texting? Why are you emailing? Why aren't you having these conversations? But what happens is the minute that you send that contract, that PIN over signed by your buyers, all the seller has to do is check the box that says, I cancel the contract, and you're out. What you should be doing is picking up the phone and saying to the listing agent, hey, look, before I send this over, can you have a conversation with your seller? These are the things my buyer is wanting, and this is what's wrong, and this is justified, and you have this conversation with the listing agent. You're going to test the waters, the listing agent cocky, are they clueless, are they good, saying, hey, you know what, yeah, let's see if we can't make this work out. They'll go back to their seller and verbally, because in Maryland, we're a statutory state, which means everything real estate related must be in writing when you're buying a house. And get this information, flush it out. And that's why a lot of buyers' agents don't even go to the home inspection. You should be right there with your buyer. You should be walking through. You should be not even before you get that inspection report. You should have a clue of what's coming out, of what that inspector's found. And you should be having some type of conversation with the listing agent, in my opinion. That's what I'm telling my agents.
One of the things drives me crazy is how, you'll get a text message about a property, or you'll get an offer with not even hearing from the agent. No questions, nothing, no communication at all. You can't take 5 minutes to have a conversation. It drives me crazy. Have that communication, open up, talk to people, put the deal together. It's not black and white, right? It's gray. You gotta negotiate. You gotta put things together. You gotta bring things to the buyer's attention, to the seller's attention. And when you have those conversations, it helps you. So when you're a listing agent and you have somebody making an offer a lot under your asking price, when that agent calls you and gives you the reasons why, now you have the ability to go to the seller and address them coming from a third party, not coming from you. So, hey, these people are interested, but they're offering this because X, Y, and Z. So then now they have a reason to say, okay, you know what, maybe we should do this, or maybe we should give them credit for that, or maybe we should reduce the price this, because they know what it needs. They're just trying to get around it, right?
We had a situation recently where listing hit the market, had an offer that came in right after an open house. And the agent that was involved instantly hit the seller with an email that basically said, my buyer's going to present an offer, but these are the things that are wrong with the house. So the question was, and talking with my agent, is did the buyer's agent see the house? The answer was no. The buyer's, first of all, if you're a buyer's agent and you didn't look at the house, I will not write an offer on a house that I have not seen. And you can ask any of my agents, they better not do it either. How can you write an offer on a house if you haven't seen it yourself? So you start out the email offending the seller right off the start. And look, I'm not afraid to offend a seller, but it better be justified. And you better had seen this house. They had not had a home inspection. This is not even under agreement yet, under contract yet. Who is that? Why do people hire agents without vetting them out and not understand that agent is
I'll
lazy?
never understand that.
How do you even know what offer to write for your buyers if you don't put your own eyes on it?
It's amazing, isn't it? And it happens every day.
It's
I
despicable.
don't I don't know how people hire agents to represent them that way. How do you hire someone that does not know what they're doing? It drives me crazy.
There's a Newsweek article. We'll check this out real quick. Last month, according to Redfin, there were 2.06 million homes for sale across the U.S., spending an average of 50 days on the market before going under contract. This is 8 more days than a year earlier and the slowest pace for this time of year in nearly a decade. The median sale price for a typical U.S. home in the same month was $435,545, up 1.7%. And again, this number is a skewed number
Interesting.
because the rich people are buying houses, not
Correct.
first-time buyers. But this is a very low number. When you look at historically, home prices go up 5 to 7% a year and have since like 1971. Housing experts first started noticing that the gap between sellers and buyers was approaching a record of 500,000. They predicted that the imbalance in the market would bring down prices. In May, Redfin said it expected home prices to fall by 1% year over year by the end of 25, citing the growing gap between sellers and buyers. I think that what we're going to see is that when we saw the peak of 2006, especially here in Maryland, it was actually 2022 before a lot of sellers could get back what they bought it for in 2006, especially the
Yep.
higher price homes. And
That's
so
coming
it
again.
took a very long time for home prices to go up. All the while, you spent a lot of money through the years keeping that house up. If you didn't, it wasn't even worth what you bought in 2006. You had to upkeep the house. You couldn't just live in it and let it fall apart. And, I think that's if you're selling right now, you need to have somebody put their eyes on your property and say, what's wrong with the house?
Right.
What is this something that is going to knock a buyer's socks off the minute they walk in the door? Can they imagine themselves being in that house? Can they bond with your house as their house in that first 10 or 15 minutes of walking in that front door? And if the answer is no, then they're walking out uninterested. It's very strange the psychology that happens when you're walking a buyer through a house because they turn their nose to some of the craziest things instead of even looking for opportunities to get a better price. You're like, this house won't work. I don't like this. I don't like that or whatever. So it's from the moment they pull up. It's the curb appeal. What does it look like from the outside? Have one of your friends drive up and say, give me an honest opinion. Call a home stager. Have them come in and give you an unbiased opinion of what they think of your house. Spend a couple $100 and hire somebody other than your agent that just wants to get the listing. Find out what is the reason why people are turned off when they walk in your house. Depersonalize. People don't want to walk in and see your family's photos. Put up neutral pictures. Believe me when I'm telling you, if you have a vacant house, get it staged. Okay? It is proof that a staged house because an empty house looks smaller. And people sit there and say, well, my couch won't fit here or my dining room table won't fit here. They're not walking around with tape measures. So when you have it properly staged, spend a couple $1,000, get your house ready for the market. Talk about your story. Why is it that you need to sell? It should be confidential. Your listing agent may drop little innuendos as far as why you're looking to sell, but they shouldn't. They should keep it completely confidential, but find an agent you can be honest with. And you could say, look, I have to sell. This is where my bottom line is. This is where I have to be. Get honest opinions and the other thing is prepare to put it on the market. I see so many sellers making catastrophic mistakes by not building up a demand before they go live. I see agents, they want to sign a listing agreement. They want to rush the photos, crappy photos. They put it online. You get a wave of people that come through and you're dead. You're crickets after that. If you put the house in coming soon for a minimum of a week with all the photos in its best look, you're going to see how many saves you have on the sites. You're going to see how many views your property has. If you have 900 views and 13 saves, chances are it's not going to be good the day you push it live. And then consider dropping the price before it goes live. Those prices aren't discovered. So if you list it for a price on Zillow and coming soon, but you say, look, we're not getting the activity, and you become more realistic on the price and you drop it day one, then you're not seeing the price drop 2 weeks later. You're taking it on the front end. Analyze that activity, guys. You're missing it. We have a poll too, by the way. Let's pull the poll up. So the Fed has signaled that there's going to be quantitative easing coming. At least that's what they're signaling. And the question is it going to be towards mortgage-backed securities? Will we see them buy up mortgage-backed securities to suppress the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, maybe to try and get it down in the fives? If it's not going to happen, automatically on its own, will they step in and say, look, we need to buy mortgage-backed securities, put some more liquidity into the market and shake this thing up? 57% say yes. This is kind of balanced.
That's what I was saying before. If they do, inflation is going to take off again. They can't. I don't know where they're going to pull the money from other than printing it. How do they buy them?
I think that if mortgage rates go even in the low fives, it's going to do nothing for the housing market. Prices are still too high. Remember, they're priced in 2 and 3 handles, not 5.
Yes.
And since the 2 and 3 handles, insurance has skyrocketed, property taxes have skyrocketed, repair costs have skyrocketed, and buyers want repairs and replacements and credit, cash back. This article, Lance Lambert reported this is an article on fastcompany.com. Speaking Tuesday at the National Association for Business Economics meeting in Philadelphia, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell offered his clearest reflection yet on the Fed's pandemic-era mortgage bond buying. He acknowledged that the central bank may have kept purchasing mortgage-backed securities for too long, but he also suggested that those purchases may have had a smaller effect on the housing market's trajectory than some assume. Regardless of the composition of our purchases, some have questioned the inclusion of agency mortgage-backed security purchases given the strong housing market during the pandemic recovery, Powell said. The extent to which these mortgage-backed security purchases disproportionately affected housing market conditions during this period is challenging to determine. Hello, I can help you with that. And many factors affect mortgage market, and many factors beyond the mortgage market affect supply and demand in the broader housing market. There is no way possible that we would have seen 2.5, 2.75% 30-year fixed rate mortgages if the Fed wasn't doing quantitative easing of mortgage-backed securities. I appreciate, Mr. Powell, what you're saying, and it is important to stimulate the economy. I get it from time to time, but I think, and I've said it before, that this will go down as one of the biggest mistakes. Now, yet we are still trying to have it show up. We're seeing it in red flags all over the country where prices are coming down, and we're really seeing delinquencies rise.
The entire problem is because they manipulated and they bought the securities and they brought the rates down, and they caused it all. I don't care what that guy says. We're led by morons. These people I don't know where they went to school and got paper degrees.
We didn't start buying mortgage-backed securities till 2009. We've never bought mortgage-backed securities. So every time in every situation where they bought mortgage-backed securities, home prices went up.
Because they're falsely reducing the rates and inflating the values because of the common knowledge of people will pay a payment and they can afford it, and that's it.
With the fact that we didn't see foreclosures. So there was a lot of inventory with people that are living in houses without paying their mortgage payment.
The foreclosures would have balanced it out, but they stopped them with the modifications where they also inflated those and raised the rates and made money on those too for the investors and for the whoever. The market wasn't allowed to correct itself, and it's still manipulated. Eventually, something crazy's got to happen.
Thanks so much for watching. If you like the video, you can let us know by smashing that thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please consider doing so now. Hit that alert bell. You'll know every time we upload content just like this. Keep those comments and questions coming. And one of the biggest compliments you can do for us all here at Sachs Realty is to share our channel and this video with your family and friends. This will help us to continue to build this amazing online community with viewers just like yourself. See you next time. Sachs Realty, Maryland broker number 607720, office number 443-318-4514, equal housing opportunity.